Hi everyone, and welcome to 5 early tips for Loop Hero success and engaging PowerPoint by myself, Voifluff. Now I say early tips because, well, one, we're very early on in the cycle of Loop Hero. The game only came out yesterday for me. I know some streamers had access to it earlier. I did not, although I was watching a lot of content about it, and also it's kind of designed more with beginners in mind, so these are kind of more general tips to help you out. Now if you're a slightly more experienced player, if you've had this game for longer, if you've watched more content, then this video might not necessarily help you, but what you could do is you could leave some of your tips additional to these in the comment section below, and that would help everyone out. Let's foster a positive community, and if I get enough of those, I'll make a future video giving some more advanced tips to help people out a bit more, and of course I'll credit anyone that contributed to that by leaving their comments. Anyway, let's not drag this introduction on too long. Let's move on to our first tip, which I clicked in the wrong place. Let's move on to our first tip. Tip 1, take early risks. You can see, how do we get along with the kids? We insert memes in our presentations. So, early risks. If you take early risks, and by risks I mean putting down tiles early that are going to make your life a lot harder, that are going to present more of a challenge. But taking early risks means that you get better loot. Better loot means that you have a better chance of late loop success, because you're there's kind of like a curve to the game in which you need to be hitting certain beats and getting loot at certain points to get stronger and stronger, to make the game harder and harder to get better and better loot. And the earlier you start that cycle, the better, really. Even if, you know, it risks you dying early on, that's okay. It's better to lose in 5 minutes than in 45 minutes. Because, you know, I'd rather lose 100% of nothing than keep 30% of... I guess that doesn't quite make sense, but the point is that you're only going to keep 30% of your loot if you lose late in the run, and you would rather have not wasted those 45 minutes of time. You'd rather lose a loop really early on, and then, well, it's okay, I can just restart and just come back and have another better go at it. So take early risks. It will pay off, believe me. I hope I've explained myself well there. Point 2. I wasn't expecting it to do that. Okay. Advice 2 is to be adaptive. Again, memes. So, the game rewards adaptivity, adapting much more than forcing. So, while it's really fun to commit to a specific strategy, like you say, oh, I want this game, I want to have like as much evasion as possible and I'll just never get hit. Sometimes that can work out, and sometimes it's a very fun thing to do, but generally the game is not going to give you loot in quite such a straightforward manner. It's not going to give you all the evasion loot at once. It's going to spread out different things. It's going to give you some vampirism loot now, it's going to give you some evasion loot here, it's going to give you some damage to wall. Really, you want to try and mix and match all of the different stats together to make the strongest build possible at any one particular time. So you want to be always the strongest, always the strongest. Now, you can think forwards to when you fight the boss. If you know how the boss works, then you might want to kind of coordinate your strategy around that. Make sure that you've got some loot that's going to work well against that boss. You know, for example, if the boss stands by themselves, for example, they don't have any help from other units, then you don't want damage to all items. So you might get rid of some of that as you approach the boss. But generally, try and make your build the strongest it can possibly be right now, instead of forcing a specific strategy. That'll give you a better chance of winning. I mean, however, if you want to commit to a specific strategy for fun, I'm not going to tell you how to have fun. Do whatever you like. But if you want to win more, you know, try and be adaptive. Tip number 3, slow ride, take it easy. Now, I think the game does a really good job of ramping up the speed and your kind of engagement with the game. The game starts off quite slow, the music is quite plodding, but then the more kind of things you build, especially when the boss spawns, the music ramps up, and you want to battle through it, and all of the, you know, you've got things flying all over the place in terms of loot and things like that, and you maybe not paying as much attention, but you can always pause the game. You can always take a minute to swap things around, have a look. I'd really recommend turning on the setting pause after battle. That is just huge, because you get all of your loot after a battle anyway. So making sure that you don't like accidentally come into a fight, get a bunch of loot, and then immediately walk into another fight without equipping your new loot It'll just give you a better chance. You can, however, swap items during a battle anyway. Hovering over items will pause the current battle. You can take some time to put on the best gear. This is particularly useful at the start of a boss fight. Again, you might have all those damage to all items that aren't doing anything. You might have things that were geared more up for fighting a swarm, and you need to readjust your loot. So remember, you can take a second. The game is fun, the game is exciting, but remember, you can step back, you can take a second to think about it. And on a similar note, do the maths. Thank you for your contribution there, Joy. So, like, for example, as long as you have some vampirism, doubling your damage is better than doubling your vamp. Always. Because you're killing things faster, and you're getting the same amount of HP back, because the vampirism is based on how much damage you do. So you do have the time, do a quick number crunch. Now, I'm not saying sit there with a calculator and work all that. Work heuristically. If you don't know what heuristically means, it just means have sort of general rules in mind that you can follow that will keep things straight for you. So, you know, oh, is it worth it for me to double my damage in return for 10% evasion? Well, that means 1 in 10 more hits are going to hit me, but I do twice the amount of damage. Yeah, that seems like a good idea. So, you know, I'm not saying crunch it all down and map out every move, but take a little bit of time to just do some maths. And hey, you'll get better at maths. That's always fun. And it is maths. I'm British. We put an S on. There is more than one math. I don't know. I'm not really going to die on that hill, but whatever. Tip number 5. Knowledge is power. France is bacon. There's a lot to learn in this game. There's tile placements. When you put different tiles together in different combinations, you give you different stuff. There's different interactions between loot loadouts. Enemies do different things. They have different abilities. There's different characters in the game. So take the time, experiment with them. Learn what works best. Don't just stick to one strategy. Again, be adaptive. Learn what works. Another thing, for example, maybe you don't want to give up on your loop, like even though you know you're going to lose to the boss, because you could fight that boss for the first time and learn what they're all about, and that's going to help you in future loops. So this really is a game where knowing things is really useful, and perhaps you already know that because you've clicked on this video, so congratulations to you. But just take the time to experiment and learn about the game. Perhaps read up on wikis. I haven't been. I've been learning for myself, and I've really enjoyed that experience, but you don't necessarily have to. Secret 6th tip: like, comment, and subscribe. Like, comment, share, and subscribe. Okay. Mainly I say this because if you've watched this video all the way to the end, then hopefully it's been somewhat useful to you. And then, you know, maybe you could just owe it to me to leave a like or a little bit of engagement that says so. That'd be really nice. I'd really appreciate it. It helps me out. And if you want to see more videos like this, then really, it's in your best interest to subscribe. So yeah, thank you very much for watching, everyone. That was just some quick little tips. I hope you enjoyed my PowerPoint presentation. Have a lovely day, and I wish you every success in your future loops. Goodbye.